found a tree, couldn't help myself. Now you're thinking, why did you buy a tree, particularly when you're renting? Well, I figure even if I don't reap the rewards, the person that lives here next will, and you know, it really doesn't hurt to plant more trees. They're really quite inexpensive as well. I think people should be paying more for plants, to tell you the truth. This cost me 30 bucks. The other thing, I thought it'd be great to showcase planting fruit trees now, because now's the perfect time. You can get a lot of fruit trees now, particularly in Victoria, that are bare rooted, being your deciduous trees such as apple trees, nectarines, apricots, etc. And it's also a great time to plant citrus trees. So you won't find these bare rooted, but you will find them in things like grow bags or pots. Now this particular one's a Eureka that I've chosen, good all round tree, good all round lemon. Now, most of them that you will find in the marketplace are grown on grafted, so they're on rootstock here. They've been grafted. If you come in here, Jack, you'll be able to see that. And there's the graft. Sometimes they're grown as cuttings straight into the ground, but mostly they're put onto a rootstock. Now, the thing is, I see this quite often when I go to people's yards or gardens and have a look at their citrus tree. It's been overtaken by the rootstock. So if you see any growth that occurs below there, you're going to want to remove it, because it becomes quite vigorous, and the fruit that it produces is quite often not edible, or if it is, it's just pretty ordinary and it's not the variety that you've actually wanted and the variety that you've purchased. So remove any of that occurs below there. Now, the other thing that I look for, the one tip that I look for when purchasing the trees, I want a nice balanced tree. So in this case, I've got, you know, a really nice balanced tree, and the test that I find to use in the nursery is to grab the actual tree and to sort of place it to the side and give it a bit of a knock and see if it falls over, because if it falls over, it means that it's unbalanced, and it's going to do the same thing if you put it in the ground. So look for a tree that's nicely balanced. It also means that you probably don't need to stake it when you put it in the ground. If you do want to stake it, I suggest, and I'll say this in horticultural school, to put a stake on either side of the tree, and then that way you get a nicely even balanced tree as well. If you put a single stake, it tends to become a bit more reliant, and you'll find that when you remove the stake, that the tree will fall over as well. Now, the general rule of thumb, and I'll say this in the textbooks, is to dig a hole twice the size of the pot. Now, typically just like to dig a nice sort of space around the tree, a nice big hole. I'm going to put some compost in there, particularly that I'm down at the beach, so it's really sandy. I'm also going to chuck in some fertilizer. In this case, I'm using some horse manure that I've picked up down the road, but you can use some organic fertilizer, some pelletized fertilizer, some chicken manure, whatever you get your hands on. The whole reason being is that this soil's not very nutrient rich, so I'm going to add some by putting the fertilizer in there and the compost. Also add organic matter, and then finally I'm going to give it a water in with some seaweed solution. Now, the seaweed solution is not a fertilizer. It's actually just a tonic that helps the plant take up the nutrients that is actually in the soil. So it acts as a catalyst between the tree's roots and the fertilizer. So if the soil doesn't have fertilizer in it, the seaweed solution is actually not going to do it very much good. So anyway, leave me to it. I'm going to dig a hole and get this tree planted. Okay. Just making sure that it's not root bound. There's no roots going around. It's quite nice. Yeah, I'm just going to water it.